It is Sunday, October 5th, and it's getting pretty late with Jake Landau. We have a return guest for you today, and I won't drag it out. It's Norm. Norm's back. We got Norm.
Hey,
Fourth
good to
time.
be back.
Yeah,
Good
we
to be
love
back.
Norm. Norm's great. For those of you who are new and have been living under a rock, or perhaps this is your first episode, Norm de Pasquale is a former school board trustee, former co-chair of Ontario Place for All. He's also a member of the NDP and a former candidate for them. So, yeah, fun times, fun vibes. We love Norm. Always great to have him on the show. Norm, welcome back.
Always a pleasure, Jake. Thanks for having me back.
Well, thank you for coming on. And I mean, there's a bunch of topics we got in the front half. Firstly, there's a bunch of drama going on with school boards and trustees in the province right now. And we had a friend of yours, the current chair for the Toronto Catholic District School Board on a few weeks ago to talk about how the Ford government wants to get rid of school boards. Since then, we found out they're like, well, let the Catholic board keep trustees, which seems a bit weirder to me. So it seems mainly targeted now at the secular boards, that they're all going to be gotten rid of, and there are not going to be any trustees anymore, and the Ministry of Education is apparently going to just manage it directly. Norm, on a scale of bad to terrible, how awful of an idea do you think this is?
This idea is so horrible that even the National Post can't understand what the Ford government is doing here.
You
They wrote
know,
a
when the
very long
National
article.
Post is criticizing a conservative for being
Yeah.
too conservative, that something's gone very wrong.
Yeah, and then just nonsensical and commenting on how this repeatedly blows up in their face. Like Education Minister Paul Calandra is complaining about a $15 milkshake, yet he spent $1,800 over 3 months at the Queen's Park restaurant. Maybe he should pack a lunch every now and then.
No, and that's another thing I don't think people know about Queen's Park. There is a private restaurant in the underground level. I've seen it. I've never dined in there because I'm not a lucky enough guy to get invited to dine in there. And it's obviously very exclusive to members of provincial parliament. But I don't think a lot of people know that they get a private restaurant, let alone that they can apparently expense what they eat there depending on their position as a government MPP or cabinet minister. So yeah, that's a bit absurd.
Yeah, I mean, Education Minister Paul Calandra, he's a hungry boy. He spent
Yeah.
like $7,000 in that restaurant.
I know
over
that's the
years.
crazy part. I don't actually. How could you spend that for more clarification? There's a normal like cafeteria for like the people who work at Queen's Park, like
Yes.
security, like staff, and that makes sense. I'm not saying they need to go without food. I'm not a villain. But like you do not need like a white tablecloth fine dining establishment in there, and you especially don't need to expense what you eat there to the taxpayer. You know what, if they want to like charge out a profit margin to get
Yeah,
money back from the MPPs and put that back
yeah,
into government coffers, that I actually wouldn't mind as much. That would be a little bit funny. Like
yeah.
if they create like tourist traps or financial scams to get the salary back from MPPs.
Yeah. Yeah, and he seems to be boozing on the taxpayer's dime, possibly when you're talking about that kind of money. So,
That's a good
uh,
point. It would be hard to reach that level of expense without some sort of alcoholic beverage. Although, who knows? Maybe they're eating 5 Wagyu steaks in a single sitting. Like,
wouldn't put it past these guys. So
no,
certainly shouldn't be criticizing trustee expenses.
yeah, but no, you're right. And I mean, back on the main topic of like trustees, like I think there's a very obvious reason we need school board trustees. I think there's a pretty good reason why the Minister of Education or a bunch of faceless functionaries are
Uh-huh.
not the best to run it at such a micro. There's a lot of stuff the Ministry of Education does need to do centrally.
Yeah,
And, even under a conservative government, I think a lot of the people in the public service do it fairly well. It's their job to
yeah,
be competent regardless of the
absolutely.
government of the day. But what
That's
I would, you would have to hire a lot of people, like a lot more people to functionally replace trustees across the province. And Doug Ford has
absolutely.
just announced a hiring freeze.
Oh, that's right. That is a good correlation there.
Yeah,
Um,
well, let me clarify.
yeah.
A hiring freeze for everyone except police. Because of course.
Because of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on the trustee side of things, they just the TDSB supervisors just maximized all class sizes, so they pushed it right up to the maximum. So a whole bunch of teachers have been let go, and now every student is in the absolute maximum class
Because
size.
they don't have to worry about parents voting for someone else in the next trustee election, so they can do anything no matter how unpopular and no matter how horrible for the students whose education is ostensibly supposed to be the point of public schools.
Yeah, and the trustees put 30 million in to lower those class sizes a little bit so they become functional classes.
Right.
And
Yeah. And,
the supervisors have done this, and there's nobody to talk to because
and
they don't respond.
even if you were going to replace all the trustees with actual public servants, I don't think people understand how little trustees are paid. Like, I think in the Toronto District School Board, getting just over $20,000 a year makes them the highest paid in the province.
That's right.
I think.
Yeah, it starts at about 6,000 a year, if you can believe it. For trustees.
Yeah. I know on a Catholic board in Toronto, it was somewhere around the teens. So
right.
for it's like, how are you going to replace them with full-time staff? Like, that would be way more expensive, actually.
We were putting in 60 hours a week and making $600 every 2 weeks net.
Yeah, the government, admittedly, with how low trustees are paid, has kind of been taking advantage of people's good-natured desire to help the children in their community.
Yes, that's exactly why I did it.
Yeah, it's like, and don't get me wrong, I like that there are people who are passionate, but god damn it, it's an important job, and I think y'all should be paid appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, even other things got cut back. Like in 2018, the federal Liberals made it fully taxable. Like whatever a small amount of money we're making is now fully taxable. So I
didn't actually know that it was tax exempt before.
It was like a third tax exempt.
So,
and that was cut out.
Which I don't oppose. It's like, oh no, it's like they get to keep a couple thousand of their 20,000 a year tax cheats. Yeah. Like,
oh boy.
And mind you, I'm the kind of guy who like gets mad when servers in restaurants don't declare their cash tips. So like but I don't mind that. Like that's fair. Like I'm a very much a kind of guy who's like everyone should pay their taxes and then the government should use those taxes appropriately. That's the contract we all make to live in a society.
100%.
No, but yeah, so trustee situation isn't great. Doesn't look like it's gonna get much better.
I mean, the National Post article commented on how slow they are moving here, because usually the Conservatives, they move fast and break stuff. But here they're moving in such a wobbly manner that they're opening themselves up to attacks on all sides.
Do you think that might just be because they don't, they're just planning to not do a new election in a year in 2026, which will only be like 12 months away, I believe.
Well, that might explain why they're ragging the puck.
Yeah, it's like that. There's no point to go through all the drama, I guess, of kicking them out of the positions if they've already appointed supervisors for a bunch of them, and in a year they're going to be gone. It admittedly is a tactic that Ford would probably be smarter to use more often to not kick up as much dust in public view.
That might be the strategy.
Not that I'm trying to help them.
Yeah. I still find it interesting. The National Post couldn't make heads or tails of what they're doing here.
Yeah, it's like there have been a few interesting pieces out of the National Post this week. And on another topic on that line, the Federal NDP are having a leadership race. There are three serious announced candidates: Heather McPherson, Avi Lewis, and Rob Ashton. There is also Rwandan genocide denier Yves Engler, who recently posted that his platform had been complimented by Tommy Douglas, who is dead.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm very happy that Heather and Avi and Rob are there to have like a serious race, and that people are going to stop saying front runner Yves Engler.
Yes. Thankful for that as well.
Not to talk much about him. I like to laugh. But no, talking about the actual serious candidates in this race, who are not denying one of the most well-documented genocides of the late 20th century.
Uh-huh.
in my replies on Twitter, which was the funniest part, actually, that he came in them and doubled down. But moving on. Like we've got Heather McPherson, who's sitting MP. We've
Mhm.
got Avi Lewis, who's the son of Stephen Lewis, and who had a bit of buzz going behind him. But the
Mhm.
one that's really catching my attention right now is Rob Ashton, just for how much like momentum he seems to rapidly be picking up, and just it's his way of conducting himself and his very strong labor background for me.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
and also I just like how when we talk about interesting National Post piece, I don't know if you read that National
Mhm.
Post interview that Raheem Mohammed did with Rob Ashton, but it was very interesting because it was positive, and I'm not used to positive
Wow.
coverage from the National Post of a prospective NDP leader, especially someone leaning so hard into labor. But I love this guy's quotes. Like, he's honestly feels like a quote machine. Like
Wow.
yeah, it like at one point he said, "Division is the weapon of the boss," and I'm like,
Yes.
okay, I'm vibing with that, my guy. Like, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
and it's like in the National Post interview, he just said, "I never have trouble explaining this to people. A cis man is just someone who identifies as a man and was born with a penis." And the National Post just accepted that and moved on, which is really wild because it's like they seem to be pretty like picky and kind of in a bad way on trans people right now. So, like, how do you feel about him? Like, in particularly that he's managing to like he's not abandoning social
No.
justice and
Nope.
issues on that, but he's
Mhm.
managing to like contextualize it in a unifying way of saying that it's the rich and powerful who want to create all these divisions and bigotries in our society.
Yeah, and I think he put that better than other candidates who maybe made a reference to like a purity test or something. Like, let's use simple, unifying language that everybody can grasp. Like the way he broke down cis men in a way that I'm not sure I've ever seen another political person be able to do is refreshing.
I think it's
Um,
because he doesn't talk as much like a politician. Not I
yeah,
don't mean that in a bad way to
yeah,
politicians.
yeah,
It's just more that like when you're trained to talk a certain way, it limits
yes.
how frankly you can talk. And because he's
Mhm.
never been trained like that, he just talks.
I love
And
it.
it works. Like I think the idea of like shaping the way people talk is very outdated for political messaging. People want sincerity. They're willing to accept rough edges now.
Yep.
Very clearly in the United States, they have more than rough edges. But it's like when you look
And
at folks like Doug Ford, it's like people are okay with a little bit rough around the edges as long as they're like, yeah, he says what he means and means what he says.
yeah, I totally agree. Like when I was first elected as trustee, like I had not really had any sort of formal training, and I was just shooting from the hip in a lot of meetings where, contrasting with people who had been there for a long time, who'd been obviously press trained. People would come up to me and say, like, "Whoa, I just love it, man. Like I was just able to understand. You spoke from the heart."
Yeah, it's
I
about
think people are
working
very
for you
hungry.
pretty well. Like,
I don't, yeah, but yeah, people really want somebody who can speak from the heart, and the NDP is a party of the workers. So to have a leadership candidate who is a worker from the working class, like the president of the Longshoremen Union, is extremely refreshing for the NDP, and I think sorely needed in this leadership race.
especially it's a private sector union too, and that's something the NDP has been unfortunately losing a fair bit to conservatives. So, like this does
Good
seem,
observation.
yeah, it feels like a very good opportunity for the NDP here. I mean, obviously the members will pick who they want, and
Yeah.
Heather McPherson obviously also has the benefit of having a lot of recognition and being an established caucus member. But I did like on what you mentioned about like how she was talking about purity tests, and then another caucus member, Leah Gazan,
Mhm.
said that she didn't like that talk because she feels it's like a dog whistle for people who are upset the party's trying to be more inclusive. I know like one of the big things when talking about purity tests quotation marks
Mhm.
like for this race is that you need half the like 500 people you need to sign up as signatures to qualify as a candidate have to be women or they have to be trans people.
Yes.
And I why would that be a problem? Like if you can't get a couple hundred women or trans people to support
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
then you have no chance of becoming the prime minister of a country
That's
like
right.
40 million people.
Yeah, and, inspire the people, get the signatures, and you will get signatures from all of those groups you're supposed to get if you inspire the people, right?
Right. And you're also
It,
like right that like Rob Ashton is able to talk about the same thing, but in a way that's just a lot more simple. That isn't accusatory towards anybody. That is
for
just
sure.
it's the ability to just say, "Oh, this is what trans people are," and everyone's like, "Oh, okay," and then we move on with our lives. Like,
Yeah, division is the tool of the boss.
yeah,
Who's going to argue with
yeah,
that?
exactly. That's a great one, and like it's not
Yeah,
his only quote, but like being able to just come up with like snappy like quotes like that just immediately like communicate in a simple way what you think, what
yeah,
you mean, what you want to do. Like, I mean, that's what they need. I think that's what the
yeah,
federal NDP need if they want to crawl out of this hole and get back into party status. Like,
yeah,
or
yeah. Clear,
hopefully much
simple
further than
communicating.
that. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Like be able to present a vision that is truly an alternative from the other two, from the other parties that are in the House of Commons. That's we got to do that.
Yeah. Well, so I guess the third person here that I guess we haven't talked about as much would be Avi Lewis, and I was like looking into him and very interested in him like as the lead up to this race was happening, but I feel bad for him, but I feel like Rob Ashton has kind of stolen the thunder of the not Heather McPherson or not a caucus member vote.
Mm.
Yeah.
We're just kind of at the very beginning of this race. There are probably more twists and turns to come. The next thing is there's going to be a leadership forum that the Canadian Labour Congress is holding, and we'll be able to hear everybody's ideas and contrast them and everything. Um, and yeah, I've seen Avi Lewis over the decades in the media challenge politicians that are taking this country in the wrong direction, and love things like his LEAP manifesto. And there's a lot of good ideas and good policy in there. So I just want to see a great exchange of ideas. And I for sure would say that Rob Ashton at this is a very intriguing option in this moment, and exciting that people are seeing themselves in the party.
Well, you can never complain about having multiple good options, and
Absolutely not.
and also, like, it's a ranked ballot, I believe, in federal NDP as well.
Yeah.
So, like, it'll be nice to see, like, which candidates are friendly with other candidates, if anyone
Yeah.
recommends to rank someone as their number two. Like,
Uh-huh.
I know in, like, for a recent example from down south in the United
Yeah.
States for the Democratic nomination for mayor of New York,
Mhm.
that Brad Lander and Zoran Mamdani ranking each other's, their voters ranking the other number two,
Right.
definitely helped them defeat Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, that was a brilliant political move. I think it was good for the political career of Brad Lander and Zoran Muntami. So
And
good for
also,
them.
I feel like ranked ballots in general just make for a much more positive political culture. It to focus
Yeah.
on points of agreement, to make deals with each other, public, not private backroom deals, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
public agreement to say vote for me as number one, but this person is
Love
cool
it.
too. Like I to give a compliment to Stephen Del Duca out of the thin air. I liked in the 2022 cycle when he proposed
Mhm.
he explicitly as for electoral reform he said we should have ranked ballots because it promotes this positive political culture where people focus on agreeing with each other and finding points of common understanding. I don't
Yeah.
praise Stephen Del Duca much, but congrats to the Donovan on that one.
There you go. We
Yeah.
we found something nice to say about Del
Yeah.
Duca. Well done.
Yeah. Moving on to the leadership of the Ontario NDP, I know the provincial party recently had their AGM about a week after the Ontario Liberal Party had their AGM, and like the Ontario Liberals, there was also a leadership review vote. And while Merritt Stiles did win that vote, she didn't necessarily get as much as she was hoping for, but a bit more than Bonnie Crombie did in hers. So I guess what sort of is the vibe right now in the Ontario NDP? Are people accepting that result? Are they ready to move forward with Miss Stiles, or are there people who are still disgruntled and think that might have not been enough?
Yeah, I think there's maybe a disgruntled but cautiously kind of try to move forward here. Like, they delivered a very strong message, and this is the first time people have been able to weigh in on Mart Styles' leadership. because she was acclaimed as leader of the
Right. There
Ontario.
was no one else who ran against her for leadership of the party.
Yeah,
So
so I don't know if there's some irritation about the fact that nobody's been able to weigh in until this point. And there's obviously the election results in February where, they were able to hang on to most of their seats, yes, but in most ways seem to take a step backward, in the popular vote, and there wasn't it's tough to spin a positive on the
yeah, it's
February
like
election.
very similarly to Bot Crombie's results for the Liberals. Like there were things that you definitely could praise, but
Mhm.
there's no illusions here. No, but this wasn't what anyone was hoping for.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
And probably still some disillusionment around the Sarah Jama situation, understandably. So, and I think, some of the signs that I've seen coming out of that are positive, like beefing up the staff, like Jen Hassam, who's the executive director at Broadband Institute, is now the chief of staff from Art Styles.
No,
So,
yeah, I'm familiar with Jen. That's a good sign. I do like Jen. Like,
yeah,
I think ultimately, if Styles wants to stay on, then showing that there are these concrete changes being made, that there's an actual understanding of the flaws in the last campaign that can be built upon. I know for the Ontario Liberals, there was a lot of fear because the party essentially refused to release that post-mortem on the campaign until the very last minute. Has there been any sort of like proper post-mortem publicly for the Ontario NDP?
I haven't seen it if there is.
Ah,
So
well,
perhaps not public.
best of luck on getting that public, if there is one. But no, yeah, I think it's fair. I think there's a lot of similarities here, and I think there's a lot of disgruntled progressives who, quite frankly, aren't NDP or liberal at this point. They're just
Yeah,
wondering if anybody will be competent enough to beat Doug Ford. Because, like,
that's it.
it's certainly getting frustrating, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, we're 7 years in on this on Doug Ford, and he's not getting any better. In fact, in my mind, he's getting worse.
And yet, like recently, he polled at like what 52%.
52.
So it's like it's a rough position for progressives because unfortunately, we do have to admit that it appears a flat out majority of people like the guy.
Yeah, any people are mad at speed cameras. Guy cancel speed cameras. Like, he seems to like it's populist. It's not good policy, but he seems and he seems to be rewarding vandals who are cutting down speed cameras.
If I like.
It's populist.
If I like Rob Ashton as the potential federal leader for the NDP, it's because
Mhm.
he taps into that same populist energy,
Yeah.
but for
Yes.
something hopefully a lot better. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't like when people criticize populism in general because
Hmm.
it's a democracy. You should be appealing to the majority in most cases. Obviously, we have a constitution and civil rights because sometimes a majority wants to violate the rights of a minority group. But like in general, I can't complain about a democratic government that wants to appeal to a majority of society. Like
Just like to see leaders spend political capital on something good.
that too. Like if that's kind of why the last conservative prime minister I respect was Brian Mulroney, because there are things he used his political capital on
Yeah.
that later prime ministers of his political persuasion would not have done. He raised taxes as opposed to Harper cutting services more. Like that,
Mhm.
yeah. Like
Exactly.
I support the GST, as angry as that may make people at home, because consumption taxes actually are progressive because the richer you are, the more you spend. And there's this crazy idea people have that when people spend on luxury goods or services, there somehow isn't HST on that. And I
Oh,
like to go to their private club.
thanks. That is a great perspective on GST. It's a form of luxury tax.
No, yeah, and like we can tailor it. Like, I mean, when we took it off like basic food, like
Yeah.
staples, I support that because like
Yes.
if we want to raise if the basic exemption in exchange for maybe a raise in the HST in general, I think that could work too. It's like there are a lot of ways to play around with it, but that's what I mean. I mean, like
Yep.
that certainly wasn't a populist move. But it was
No,
good for it was good for balancing the budget. It was good for fiscal responsibility without cutting programs necessary. I mean, let's be honest, Mulroney did cut some programs, but I would say it wasn't as severe as the Harper years, or
yeah.
perhaps even as severe as what the Mark Carney years might end up being.
Yeah, I remember in grade 7, the teacher having us write a story about GST.
Like,
How often does that happen? Like, obviously
why?
that.
That's a frustrated teacher right there. They're like,
Yeah, I think so.
uh, no, but no. Moving on to our final topic here before we go into the second half. It's been about a year since Ontario Place was clear cut and bulldozed.
Mhm.
Shit's depressing, man. Like, I know there was a recent piece the Ontario Place for All did, a tale of two waterfronts, where we're also looking closer to the Portlands, where there's been a bunch of great work done, like new parks opening, like sort of like a new Ontario Place. Shame that we're getting rid of the old one.
That's it. I mean, yeah, it seems to be we're spending a bunch of money to recreate what we already had.
Yeah.
And it shows you what happens when Waterfront Toronto isn't like the lead on waterfront work. You get basically what's going to be at Ontario Place is going to be a mud ball,
Yeah.
and a 5-story parking lot. Are going to be the two things that strike you over there on the waterfront for a long time now.
Well, it's okay, though, because Olivia Chow made a deal with Doug Ford that the city would get to move into the Science Center property and run it themselves. And that's totally going to happen any day now, right, Norm?
I mean, what an opportunity. We have Mark Garneau, a giant in science in Canada who just passed away, there's a Mark Garneau school over there. Why not reopen it as the Mark Garneau Science Center?
Yeah,
I
like the cut of your jib. Like, that is some good vision, and I do miss Mark Garneau. For a personal anecdote here, we were mutuals on Twitter, funny enough. But
really?
yeah, the first time I met him was at a Liberal Party event in my riding. He was coming because my MP Rob Oliphant invited him, and by that point I had met Justin Trudeau a few times, and I was never nervous meeting him. I was actually joking around with Trudeau when I met him, and I made him laugh, which is how you know you're having fun. But like when I met Mark Garneau, I was nervous. And it wasn't because he was a politician. It wasn't because I'm never nervous meeting any politician. I was nervous because he went to space, because he was on the International Space Station, because he was in the documentaries they would play at the Science Center on the IMAX Dome. I was nervous, but luckily he was a fun guy, like I miss him, truly you're right, he was a giant of Canadian history and culture.
Yep.
And we do shine dimmer without him, but I genuinely, and if we were going to make an astronaut governor general, perhaps him instead of Julie Payette.
Yeah, right, that wouldn't go so well.
Or Chris Hadfield. It's like we seem to have a lot more calm astronauts than her, ones who I think maybe smoke a bit of the ganja. And you know what? I think more governor generals should maybe smoke a bit of weed, be a bit calmer, be a bit more chill, have
part of the Canadian identity.
No, yeah, because it's like the job is like you show up, you take photos, you meet school groups, like you don't got to be angry, like just have a good time.
To be a little more relaxed.
Yeah, it's like, and it's like it's in the Canadian spirit now.
Yeah, marijuana's not that expensive, so it's not going to look bad on your expense reports.
That's true. It's like you'll be doing a lot better than the Minister of Education.
Well, that's right.
My apologies to Paul Calandra. Not really.
No, me neither.
Folks, don't go anywhere. We will be back with our guest, Norm de Pasquale, after the break with our 3 headline topics. They're mostly depressing, but we still joke around here, so we'll have a good time. See you in a sec. Today's episode of It's Getting Pretty Late with Jake Landau is brought to you by me. Folks, all of my work is available for free with no paywall at jakelandau.ca. But in order to keep writing and recording, I need money, because money is what makes this show go round. So, if you enjoy my content or find it informative, please consider a paid subscription at jakelandau.ca/subscribe. And please leave a 5-star rating on the show in your favorite podcast app, be it Apple, Spotify, or a secret third thing. Thank you, and enjoy the show. And we are back from the break with our 3 headline topics of the week and our guest, Norm de Pasquale, from the former school board trustee, Ontario Place for All, formerly there as well, former NDP candidate, bunch of things. We love him. Happy to have him on to talk about 3 depressing topics that are sad, but we'll joke about them anyways. So, first topic from CBC News, from Kate McKenna in the Politics Bureau. Conservatives won't support Liberal border bill without major changes, according to Pierre Poilievre. Conservative leader says that the current bill includes violations of Canadians' freedom and privacy. And Norm, this may be a first for our program, but I agree with Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, a broken clock is right twice a day. I agree wholeheartedly with his stance and all of his statements.
We may be in the mirror universe right now. I'll keep my eye out for bearded Spock.
That's right.
Well, no, but seriously, he actually is somehow completely right on this one, and I'll stop rousing him too much because he's not the problem here. The Liberal Party and the Mark Carney government are the problem here because they've proposed an insane piece of legislation, Bill C2, that would allow both the Canadian government and the American government to access an absurdly wide range of things for searches of Canadian citizens and Canadian residents without any search warrant. And, I don't even like that the Canadian government would be able to do this, but the American government right now, with bills like this, it's really hard to argue against the idea that we're a client state and that Mark Carney's a collaborator with America.
Yeah, absolutely. This is bringing the Patriot Act that everyone hates in the U.S. up north. Yeah. There was reporting that was showing that, they could spy on your internet surfing, and they were spying on your internet surfing.
Oh, let's be honest. They're already spying on our internet surfing. Now they just want to make it explicitly legal to spy on our internet surfing.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
And open our mail on demand. The Americans open our mail on demand. And what for? This is to appease Trump? Haven't we learned that we can't appease Trump?
Edward Snowden has been demonized because he kind of got stuck in Russia, and Russia was never his end destination. They just canceled his American passport in the ground in Russia before he could go anywhere else. And also, I can't blame him. Russia's probably the safest place for him to be right now, considering that he's made an enemy of NATO and Five Eye. But he explicitly reported and made it clear to the world that what Five Eyes was doing, Canada, Britain, America, Australia, and New Zealand, these 5 countries, is that to get around the limits on spying on their own citizens, we were just asking each other to spy on our citizens for us and then exchanging the data. So, Australia would go to Canada and be like, hey, can you spy on this Australian guy for us? And Canada would be, sure. Can you spy on this Canadian guy for us? And Australia would say, sure. So, no, we've already been doing this. And rather than say, hey, maybe this is a problem, we condemned the guy who made it public to live in Russia for the rest of his life.
That's right. Now we just want to codify it into law.
Yeah, the thing that really pokes out to me here, Norm, is one of the things that Bill C2 would allow is records from medical facilities, including abortion clinics, to be subpoenaed without a warrant by both the Canadian government and the American government. So, Norm, for our no prize question of the week, do you think it's problematic for the Canadian government to hand over records of women who get abortions to the American government?
Hugely.
Yeah, that would be the correct answer, Norm. Congrats.
You leave an anti-abortion state in the U.S. to come up to Canada to get an abortion, and now that anti-abortion state knows that you did that. Right. Are you getting charged?
No, literally, we're ratting out women, And I mean, Canadian women who get abortions here too, which is fully legal as they should be able to. Like
Right.
might not even have any idea. They may think, oh, they know that they're tough at the border, but they think, oh, medical records are private. Suddenly
Mhm.
they've been snatched at the border, they're disappeared to an ICE concentration camp, and their family up here never sees them again. And this isn't like hysterical or a hypothetical.
No.
There are hundreds of Canadians in ICE concentration camps right now, and Mark Carney isn't doing jack shit about it.
Yeah, this is just a further betrayal of Canadian values by this government, and they had better stop aligning themselves to Trump.
They,
Otherwise, we are going to become what they are.
I would hope they would stop aligning themselves with Trump, but it seems like they're more than happy to. Like, I feel like the Liberals and Mark Carney just flat out lied. Elbows Up is going to live in infamy as one of the biggest bullshit lines in Canadian political history.
Yeah, the voters got scammed.
Yeah, that's probably about the most accurate way to put it. Voters were scammed.
Yeah.
They were lied
Uh-huh.
to. They were cheated. Like,
Yeah.
it frustrates the hell out of me. And I guess the only saving grace here is that if the conservatives are saying that they don't support it and won't vote for it, then the law may actually not be able to pass. Because remember, folks, this is a minority parliament. And
Yeah.
the New Democrats, the Bloc Québécois, and the Green Party have all expressed similar concerns about this bill. So I guess it may be able to pass, but they may have to offer one of these four parties something in exchange. Now, the flip side of that is that, like, what they're offered in exchange may not be a watering down of this bill. And also they may be able to offer very little because they only, I think, need one of the four.
That's right.
Yeah,
really, just one party
yeah.
supporting.
It's a minority government, but it's a very strong minority government. They can go vote for vote. They don't even need to do an official supply and confidence agreement, let alone a coalition, which frankly I don't think the Liberal Party will ever do federally because they've shown they can get away with less and damage the junior partner in doing so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was optimistic about the confidence and supply agreement under Trudeau between the Libs and the NDP because I thought it would be collaborative and that we could get a lot of good stuff done. And you know what? There is some good things that resulted from it. The dental care that we've got now in this country, that's a big, big thing. And I'm very proud of that. But it was very reluctant. It was like pulling teeth, and all the credit went to the Liberals without any of the credit going to the NDP. So there's no political incentive for anyone to agree to such a thing again.
No, I think that'll be could be the last time in a very long time.
Yeah, and that sucks because I think it's more because of first past the post than anything else than it failed. But the Liberals, they lied about that too, and they were rewarded for lying about it.
Yeah, and I wonder, is this bill so toxic that no party will want to attach themselves to it, similarly to attaching yourself to a confidence and supply agreement?
I do wonder, but I do think they might be able to get something here, and it worries me, and it also pisses me off because Bill C2, for folks at home who may not be aware, Bill C1 in the House of Commons and Bill S1 in the Senate of Canada are both like ceremonial bills. They're not real laws. They only ever get a first reading, and it's been the exact same legal text for those laws since the beginning of the country, pretty much. The idea is that the government does the throne speech read by the Governor General, and then the House of Commons and the Senate, to assert that they can debate things that are not mentioned in the throne speech, just bring up Bill C1 as the first act. And I like it. I think it's an important part of it's ceremonial, but the point it makes is important, that ultimately our members of parliament and our senators answer to the Canadian people, not to the government of the day and not to the crown. And I think Bill C2 is the very first actual law. It means this was the very first thing Mark Carney actually did as a law. I mean, he technically zero rated the carbon tax, but that was not a law. That was just using a power that had been delegated to the Prime Minister's office. So the first actual law that was the priority for this elbows up government was to give the United States broad swaths of power over Canadian citizens and enable them to persecute Canadians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it ever a good idea to align yourself with Trump? The answer is no.
No. And
get after me. No.
No. Like, I genuinely don't know if it's going to change because, like, part of me has realized, yes, Mark Carney's assets are in a blind trust, and I'm not going to contest whether or not it's actually blind. I will take him at his word that he doesn't know what's in there, and whether or not they're Canadian stocks or American stocks or European or Asian stocks or bonds or whatever assets are in there. But there is one genuine conflict of interest in having any financial assets at all as the head of state having to deal with Donald Trump. And that's the fact that if Donald Trump imposed sanctions against Mark Carney, he would be cut off from all of his financial assets, even the ones in Canadian banks, because how the sanctions work, the same sanctions imposed against Russia, is that any country or any entity in another country that doesn't comply with the sanctions also becomes a target of the sanctions.
Wow. Yeah, and I've seen Trump bitterly attack Brazil over Bolsonaro. So, you can't really put it past him that he wouldn't do that.
Right. It's like, so, and like, think about it. It's like in Russia, they're cut off from SWIFT. Like, they're cut off from the global banking network, even though, like, just because mainly if a bank can't, if someone is sanctioned by the United States government, then the bank isn't going to keep doing business with you, even if they're like a bank in another country, because they still want to be able to do business in America.
Right, you are.
No, so I feel like it's understated that essentially the ability for Donald Trump to sanction Mark Carney if Mark Carney displeases him essentially means no matter what financial assets Mark Carney has, they are a conflict. Because even if it was just cash in a bank account, that can still be a conflict. And I don't know how you could even manage that conflict.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to assume he has significant investments. Like we're talking about the head of the Bank of Canada, the head of the Bank of England, Brookfield.
Yeah, unless they've liquidated all of his everything he got from Brookfield, I would assume that he has a lot of shares he got as compensation during his time there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like it becomes much more direct if there are any American assets in the blind trust. But even if they're Canadian assets or European assets, like a lot of trouble can be made by the states where those assets are held, or even just by the United States government. So I don't know if it's that reason. I don't know if it's maybe that Mark Carney just doesn't care. But we are getting far too close to the Americans for our comfort, even closer than we were somehow before they decided to threaten us and our independence.
It's not the direction Canadians asked for in the election. So Carney better find a way to decouple himself from Trump here.
Well, I just hope that Canadian voters will actually care. I hope they do. I don't know if they will. Moving on to our next topic of the day, from The Guardian, who does actually do a bunch of reporting about Canada. And if you didn't know that they have Canadian correspondents for The Guardian, then you should go read them more. Please do. But yes, from Olivia Bowden in the Canada Bureau at The Guardian, which is located in Britain, but again, reporting on Canada. The Canadian government asked to clarify whether kneecap barred from country. Opposition party says minister either lied or has no clue how it works when he said band was ineligible to enter. So, for those unaware, Kneecap is an Irish punk band. They have gone under a bit of controversy for supporting Palestinians and thinking they shouldn't be killed, which apparently pisses off some of the worst people. But more seriously, they have actually said a couple controversial things. A couple years ago, they said, kill your local Tory MP, which you definitely can't say.
No.
Like, I'm sorry, fellas, but you actually can't say that one. And it was bad because I think it was actually pretty close after a Tory member of parliament had actually gotten killed. Like, so, yeah. Also, I believe at one concert, they did hold a Hezbollah flag over their heads. I admittedly, I'm going to be very honest. That one actually, I'm more focused on the kill your local Tory MP.
Mm, mm.
That's more of like a direct like call to. But anyways, that's not actually why people are mad at them. Even though maybe that should be why people are mad at them. But no, people are mad at them because at the Glastonbury Festival and on other occasions, they and punk group Bob Villain expressed in very punk-esque fashion support for the Palestinian cause and opposition to Israel. I know Bob Villain, the vocalist in that group, he got the crowd to start chanting "Death, Death to the IDF," which, you know what? A lot of energy in that one.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Liberal Member of Parliament Vince Gasparo, the Parliamentary Secretary for Combating Crime, as The Guardian put it. I don't think that's his actual title. But he announced on September 19th on a video on social media that the rap trio Kneecap has been barred from the country. Because and he said that they were amplifying political violence and displayed support for terrorist organizations, and that he most importantly, Vince Gasparo said he was making the video on behalf of the government of Canada and acting on official advice. The band then announced that they were going to sue him for defamation for claiming they supported terrorist organizations. I don't know how that one will go because it's a little bit foggy there. But the bigger problem for Vince Gasparo is that officials from the Immigration Department in Canada actually failed to provide any administration on whether or not there was a ban, and the terror charge in Britain was actually thrown out a few days ago. So they legally in Britain and in Ireland, they're actually free men that have no charges against them. And perhaps it is fair at that point to say that if Great Britain and Ireland both are saying that they're legally clear, then there's no grounds for Canada to bar on a legal charge that's no longer valid. But the bigger problem is that Vince Gasparo, again, apparently just seemed to make this video entirely by himself, without consulting anyone at the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada office. There were several sources from the governing federal Liberal Party told the Hill Times they were concerned about the video and expressed confusion. However, the Office of the Privacy Commissioner told The Guardian, Canada's federal privacy laws don't apply to MPs when they're acting in their capacity as parliamentarians. And the legal question here is, if he just randomly goes off and films a video without telling anyone in the actual government, without like having any legal capacity to do so, like without even being on like in a committee hearing or on the floor of Parliament, but just filming a random video privately in his office space, is he acting in his capacity as a parliamentarian?
I feel like the court of law is going to find that out because Kneecap has announced that they're suing this MP.
Correct.
And sort of shot off the cuff.
No, yeah, and that's the thing. There may actually be a very serious legal issue here because that would be a very clear violation of Canada's privacy laws. Like whether or not someone has been barred in such a way is actually not supposed to be made public. And there, Aidan Samardone, who's a Toronto-based immigration lawyer who talked to The Guardian, his quote here is that Gasparo's video was everywhere. So I don't see how an officer at IRCC can now make a fair decision on whether or not to let the band in, given that there's been this public announcement essentially accusing them of terrorism. Something that hasn't been proven, something that has been retracted now. There are damages here, especially because I believe they had to cancel concerts because
Yes, they did.
they had to cancel concerts, which
Yep.
has a lot of financial damages, because
Mhm.
they thought the government had actually banned them. And then they find out, no, Mark Carney had no idea his MP was just randomly doing this, and that they didn't actually have to ban or end those concerts, and thus they're out of a lot of money. And there are financial damages that could potentially sue him personally for if the government is confirming he didn't act on their behalf.
Yeah, this MP is probably not be fit to be a member of parliament. Like this was a move just, purporting to be the government of Canada, while your government has no idea what you're doing and saying.
Yeah, well,
This is not.
he's a first-time member of parliament. He was elected in for the Liberals in Eglinton Lawrence, which is one of the most Jewish ridings in the country. So, like, he's been expected by his constituents to take a very strong pro-Israel stance, regardless of what the rest of the Liberal Party is doing, especially regardless of what pro-Palestinian members of the Liberal Party are doing. So he's sort of like Anthony Housefathering, if you will.
Well, yeah, seeming to act on the interests of the government of Canada. I wonder which government he's acting in the best interests of.
Right, and like that's the other thing. He isn't actually Jewish. Let me make clear. Like this is just a random guy just doing things that are potentially illegal that he has no authorization from the government to do, but he's doing them because he thinks it's what's necessary to please Jewish voters. And listen, I'm sure there are a lot of. I live right beside Eglinton Lawrence. There are a lot of Jewish voters in that riding who will genuinely be happy he did this and probably more likely to vote for him again. Nonetheless, as a Jew myself, I need to make explicitly clear that you cannot, as a member of parliament, just randomly declare people to be banned from our country without any legal process. And you especially can't do it and then say, I'm doing it for the Jews. I would like to not be a part of this narrative, Norm. Like, do not blame this one on me. This is this is all Vince. Like, Vince did this by himself. He didn't need any Jews to tell him to do it.
I've seen other bands, like a great band called Ben Quad, who said "Free Palestine" while playing at the CNE.
Yeah,
are they next on the list of being banned by Vince Gasparo?
Well, that's my other, and even on like the Bob Dylan thing where they chanted "Death, death to the IDF." Listen, that's obviously a very, very charged chant. I also don't know how I feel about it because I read Israeli news a lot. I read a lot of reports about blatant war crimes where soldiers go on the record talking to reporters and say, yes, we are being ordered to shoot at women and children. Yes, we are following those orders. And I'm like, I can't blame people for being aggressive under that context. But I don't know that I would chant it myself, but it's like, I hate when people are like, oh, how could he chant such a thing? And I'm like, I think we know why. We're all witnessing a genocide in real time.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, it's like, would I get mad at someone during the Holocaust if they were Jewish and they chanted, like, death to Nazis?
No. I mean, Punch a Nazi is still a pretty popular
it's a rough topic. Like, it's obviously, it's very sensitive to talk about. Like, and punk is political. Like, if you're telling musical acts that they can't express political views, even ones that may be charged, and like, then you're cutting your country off from art. And ultimately, I don't really know what more to say on that one.
A terrible precedent for free speech.
Yeah, that would probably be a good
charter rights.
That's a good way to cap it up.
On and on.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to Vince Gasparo and his legal challenges.
Yeah, I don't really wish him luck, but so be it.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I like to sarcastically wish people luck. Like it's. I just like to watch the show, Norm. Like, it's entertaining. Moving on to our final topic of the day, a local story that, I mean, it involves the federal government, but it's still somehow a local story. Through the Toronto Star, but actually from Liam Casey at the Canadian Press Wire Service. Marineland asks Ottawa for emergency cash to feed whales. or euthanasia imminent. Fisheries Minister Joanne Thompson earlier this week denied Marineland's request to export 30 belugas to an aquarium in China. So, for some background here, a law was passed years ago by the Trudeau Liberals saying, hey, this is kind of inhumane and horrible. You can't bring any more whales here, and the whales you have are the last ones you'll ever have. Marineland didn't like this. I liked this because, I mean, whales and dolphins are smart. I mean, we've all read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. When the Earth blows up, they're going to be the ones that survive. They'll thank us for all the fish and then just swim into space. But like, so like the conditions on Marineland are horrible. It's like the same as SeaWorld. Like this is not the place that whales or dolphins or these sea creatures are supposed to be. Like, it is not a proper zoo even. The Toronto Zoo, in contrast to Marineland sells tickets for amusement. The Toronto Zoo runs a program for education. Like, the Toronto Zoo participates in massive, like, conservation programs. Like, they intentionally create very detailed habitats to get as close to a wild experience as possible. Like, Marineland essentially was torturing these animals for profit. And what's happened here is Marineland requested to export their 30 remaining belugas to an aquarium in China. And while the Chinese facility does have slightly better conditions, it ultimately would still have the same problem. But the bigger issue is, even if it was a better facility to send them to, the problem is, for the health of the whales, such a long journey carries a high risk of killing them before they get there. So they have to turn down the request because it's not feasible. The other problem is, while they shouldn't be in Marineland for their final years, they should be in a proper animal sanctuary. But there are no such facilities in Canada. And there's essentially, we can't ship them anywhere without incurring the same problem of near accidentally killing them. Like, so they're stuck at Marineland, in what I would describe as the world's worst hospice care. Like, they should be comfortable in their final years. Instead, they're in bad conditions, is cramped, and now Marineland, because they apparently weren't evil enough, is telling Ottawa that if they won't let them send the whales to China, then Ottawa needs to give them money or they're going to kill the whales.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry. It's horrible, but I'm laughing here because it's like a mob boss, like, asking for protection money. It'd be like, it would be a shame if anything happens to these whales here, you see?
This is like a situation that screams for government intervention. Like, the opposition parties, even in Ontario, are trying to push the Ford government to intervene in here and to try to make an untenable situation tenable. Like, maybe the government needs to step in and make this into like a makeshift sanctuary, but Marineland needs to get out. And, this is a place where I think, you need intervention for the life and the well-being of those whales.
I do think it's time to just claim eminent domain after Marineland. And then the government can do an auction for the land after the fact, like in the future, once it has been decommissioned and there are no longer any live whales there, you could auction it to get or you could build a government facility there for some other random use case. I'm sure that Niagara wouldn't mind having, there are a lot of things you can do. But it's like, the problem is, like, the owners of the land are greedy. They've actually closed all the amusement rides. Like, for a long time, people were saying they wished they would get rid of the animal exhibits at Marineland and they would just have the amusement park section. Now it's actually the opposite. The gift shop is closed. All the rides are closed. It is solely a couple depressing animal exhibits that remain open. So like no, there's no money making venture here anymore. People
No, it's
don't
very tainted.
people don't go. They don't even want to
Yeah.
go because there's even if you didn't care about the torture of animals, there's nothing to do there anymore. So like
Yeah.
it's
You
time.
know,
You're right. It's time for the
like this
government to
violence.
just step
Yeah.
in and
Yeah.
like put it out of its misery. And like I don't know what you can do to renovate the facility to perhaps make I mean, the problem is if all the tanks are occupied at the current moment, you can't really do any renovations on them. Like, so I
Mhm.
don't. It's really a tricky situation. I don't know how we can make them more comfortable in these final years because but there has to be some sort of solution. I feel like if we put our heads together and if we actually talk about putting the welfare of these animals before money,
Yeah.
then we
Yeah.
will find a solution. Because I haven't,
Yeah.
yeah, because I don't know
Yeah.
about you, Norm, but I have a suspicion
Mhm.
here that it isn't that they can't fix it, it's that they don't want to spend the money to fix it.
Well, yeah, and I think they're hoping to sell the land at some point, and it's more helpful to not have these whales exist in that scenario. So I can't even trust that they have those whales' well-being in mind, right? Like, and they're checkmated because they can't sell them to another amusement park because that's also against the law. Like, if it's against the law in Canada to do this for amusement, selling them somewhere else where they can be used for amusement is not going to be permitted by the government.
Right. It's like even if they could survive the journey to China, that's half the problem and why it was rejected by the fisheries minister. It's not okay. Like they're smart, not just smart, but like I mean not you don't have to necessarily be the smartest animal aside from humans to be deserving of, basic dignity under human care.
Yeah, I think we just need to intervene, care for those whales, eminent domain on the land. At the end of these whales' lives, then the government can go ahead and divest the land for some other use. It's time.
I hope so too, because I listen. I went to Marineland as a kid. I had some fun
Mhm.
memories there. It
Yeah,
it needs to stop. It
absolutely.
yeah.
It's becoming a tainted part of a tainted part of like the Canadian life, Canadian history. This it
I
has to
think it
we
is
have to begin there.
worse for Niagara Falls society than the casinos are,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's hard.
Yeah, that's quite a bar to clear.
Yeah. Well, that's one more final depressing story under our belt for today. Norm, thank you so much for coming on the show again for your fourth appearance. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And
I'm working
hopefully,
towards my 5 jacket. I'm so
no,
excited.
yeah, we're looking forward to getting you in the Five Timers Club soon.
That's amazing.
All right. Thank you once again to Norm de Pasquale for joining the program, a former school board trustee, a former co-chair of Ontario Place for All, a former candidate for the Ontario NDP, and overall, great fella. Federal NDP, boy. Great fella. Yeah,
Thanks, Jake. Pleasure's always mine.
you too. Cheers.
Cheers.
And that'll do it for this week's episode. Thanks once again to Norm for joining the show today. Always great to have him on. This was his fourth appearance, and hopefully soon we will have him on for a 5-peat to get in the Five Timers Club. Next week, our guest is a surprise. As always, you don't get to know. You can guess, but I will give no hints. So we will see you next week. And also, to end things off, congratulations to the Toronto Blue Jays for decimating the New York Yankees and for sending them home. Hopefully, in New York for Game 3, we will win that one easily and then be going on to the championship series. I am optimistic about baseball in the city for the first time in a very long time, and I hope you folks are too. Hopefully next week when we're doing our next week's episode, we'll have good news for you on that front as well. See you around, folks. Have a good night. This is the end of the show. Bye.